Hello everyone and welcome to another Disneyland layout. This one I'm really excited about because it was quite magical being in this area of Galaxy's Edge at the Batu Outpost at night. The colours and the lighting, all the lanterns, everything was just so special. This was definitely a huge highlight for me. So it's a lot of fun to be creating this layout on video with you. And this is part of a collab that I'm doing with my dear friend Julie Carriere. You can see I've got a picture of her here. She loved all the lanterns. Everything about this area was just spot on. It was so good and so fun to wander around, and it really was very beautiful. So we are doing this week a double page spread of this Galaxy Edge area at night. So if you haven't already watched Julie's video, I will have a link below to the playlist of our Disney collab and also a link to her video because her video went up yesterday. So I'm just fussing around with my photos a little bit just to get a layout. Now I did have a little bit of help because I'm going to use one of the creative design team's sketchbooks, and I'm using the one that we designed for 6x6 papers, but I'm actually using it with 12x12 papers in mind. So I'm going to bring that in just a moment. I'm just doing, you can see I'm going to be using flip flaps again. I love the use of flip flaps for this because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 photos that I want to put on my layout. And if I have all of these photos on this page, it becomes very photo heavy. It's definitely doable. If you don't want to use flip flaps and you want to put all your photos on the front, you could have an arrangement something like this, with one side being fairly photo heavy and the other side maybe spreading them out a little bit with your favorite pics. But I want to bring in some pattern paper, and if I start bringing in too many other elements, this then starts to look a little bit crowded for me. So I am going to use flip flaps here, and with all the droids and everything, I'm going to use a flip flap so that this can come up like this. And then I've got plenty of space to put my journaling on the other side of these. So the journaling will be hidden on this layout. I'll know that I can flip it up and read that at any time. And then my photos are taking center stage. So I think this is how I'm going to lay these out. Now I am going to remove these ones from the bottom here because they're going to be hidden on the layout and I don't want to have to keep moving them around. And I'm going to bring in a couple of paper choices because this one, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I thought it might be fun to bring in the Botanical Textures papers because they have sort of a galaxy type feel, and it goes really well with some of the areas around this Galaxy Edge area. So I've got this one here, and I really like how that looks with these photos. I'm just going to leave that down. I'm going to bring the sketch in that I'm going to use. So the sketch I'm going to use is from the 12x12. It's our volume 3. We now have volume 4 out, and there will be links for those below so that you can go and have a look at what we have on offer. We've got quite a few sketchbooks out now, as you can see from this. It's very exciting, and I reach for this book quite often, but a lot of people think that you have to use 6x6 pattern papers for this particular volume, and you don't. All the cuts and everything will fit with our 6x6 pattern papers, but of course you can cut a 12x12 down to fit these actual sizes that we've got with all our measurements and everything. And the inspiration I've got from this sketch here has nothing to do with the photo placements, so I am taking a bit of creative license with this one. It has everything to do with this strip that's coming down through here, and another one on this side, and then these grounding areas here with the paper behind these strips. Now obviously you would cut these up from 6-inch papers or from a 12x12 sheet of paper if you wanted to, and you could create these gorgeous strip elements. I'm not actually going to do that for my photos here because I think if I started sectioning everything off in strips, I'm just going to do this a little bit so that you can see what I mean. This is actually from Take to the Sky, and I was thinking about bringing this paper in as well, but you can see that allows sort of this strip sort of element here, just to give you a little bit of a visual. And I'm just finding that because my photos have so much detail in them, every little area and corner at Galaxy's Edge had so much detail in the stonework and in the lanterns and the walkways. You had to look up wherever you're going. There is so much going on. So what I've decided to do is not cut paper up for this one. I'm just going to do some large strips here. But I do quite like how this paper is looking. So this one will come down just a little bit if I'm following the sketch. This is not quite as wide as what the actual instructions have for the cuts, and I'm thinking that that would definitely work. Now, what I have to decide is whether or not I want this paper as the piece going across, or do I want it coming down this way. But at the moment, this is just giving me an idea of how my photos are going to look on this particular pattern paper. And I was quite happy with all of this paper selection. And then I remembered one of Julie's elements for our Disneyland collab, and she actually brought in Season of Elegance paper. Now, this I absolutely love. It came out in September last year, and I'm very happy that it's been carried over into the current annual catalogue. So this will be around for quite some time until the end of April next year, and it's got a lot of Christmas colours and everything in it. And I do have a couple of packs in here, but you can see that you've got the reds and the greens, very Christmassy and beautiful and rich. I absolutely love it. There are two different colorways with the greens. If I can find the other sheet of paper. I should have sorted this before I brought that out. You can see this one's got more gold on it. And then there's this beautiful peacock color. Julie recently used this paper in a way that I'm going to use the Season of Elegance paper, I think, for my layout by using the other side for our start of our Alaska trip and our cruise. But I absolutely adore this paper. Obviously, there's more sheets of it here because I've opened up a couple of packs to do layouts and had some leftovers. But what I love too about this paper is when you turn it over the other side, you get this gorgeous texture. And I think I might be going down this path. I'm going to leave this one on this side just so that I can compare them. And I think with my grouping of photos, I have put a lot of the greys together here. So I don't think I want to use the gold side because it's just a little bit bright. I could definitely do that though. What I'm thinking of doing is turning this over and using this side. And I love the warmth that that's bringing into these photos. It's really picking up on the lanterns and the lighting and the stonework. So I think this is going to work better. Let me just bring these photos over just so I can see what the grey sort of buildings, even though I've got this grey here, I still think this is going to work for these photos as well. Because there's enough highlights with the lighting and everything, and that is making everything pop beautifully. So I'm not going to use this one. The combination worked really well. I really liked it, but I just think that the reverse side of this Seasons of Elegance paper is just going to work so much better. I'm going to get another sheet out of this so I can put it on this side. So I've got this one over here now. Remember, I'm going to cut these down, so there's going to be a little bit of white showing. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is have these as the center strips, just like the sketch had them. I'm just going to bring these back. I don't know if you do this. I audition a lot of pattern paper. I want to just get the right selection for what I want. Now, funny story about this photo here. Julie didn't have a photo of me in this area at all. Somehow I managed to avoid her camera. So she actually took me from another photo from a little bit later on in the night and placed me on the steps here. And she did an amazing job. And if you want to see how she did that, you need to go over and check out her video because she steps you through how she actually created that. So now back to my paper selection. I went into my wood grain paper because we've got this sort of colour here. And this is another one that's being carried over into the annual catalogue. So that makes me really happy too because I love these neutral sort of tones. So I'm thinking this could be my strip that goes all the way across because it's bringing in the same tones of colours and it's also picking up on some of the greys. But I'm not too sure if this is how I'm going to go. Now I've got this sitting on top. This will be hiding behind this little strip here. So this one I'm going to commit to and cut this up so I can put these panels on the left and right page. So I want to pick another sheet of pattern paper rather than using cardstock. I want to put pattern paper on this. I think I like it this way a little bit better. I did use the tool in an iPhone where you can get rid of some of the foreground on some of these photos here, and there is a tip for that over on our membership group, in our Creative Design Team membership group, and it really came in handy, especially with Disney photos where it's such a busy area, you can't always get a nice clear shot. It's good to have people in the photo because it does give you a sense of proportion. So you can see that the people are this tall here. So this was quite a large area. They've built it up quite high, and it's good to be able to have that reference point just to get the magnitude of what you're looking at. And that's a good thing to remember when you're taking scenery photos as well. All right, so this strip is going to come across the middle here. Now I'm going to have to ink the edges of this paper. This is blending in a little bit too much. I'm not sure if I love this, but then I pulled out Nature's Sweetness. Now in Australia, this is no longer available. I'm not sure about anywhere else. And I thought about using this here. I know the script is sort of a bit more botanical, but I quite like how that looks underneath these photos. And I like the separation with these two patterns here. This is not just blending into that one. I'm going to take this one away. And when I was looking through my Nature's Sweetness pack, and this was a specialty paper, I found this gorgeous print with some gold text on it. And I'm thinking this might be the one that I want to use. I really love how this looks. I think it's just bringing out the gold of the actual photos here. I am going to slide it under this side and see if I like it on the left page as well. I am going to check. The other side of this has this gorgeous grid paper. I might check in my packet to see if I've got another sheet of this. But see what a difference that makes just by adding a little bit of depth, and it really is highlighting my photos. Now I'm staying away from the blues pretty much with my elements, but I have cut some mats in Night of Navy. I was going to do them in black, but I think the Night of Navy is going to work really well with these photos. And also it's a little bit softer than the black with these sort of neutral tone background pieces. So my photo sizes here, I have trimmed down to 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. These are 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. These two are a little bit of a different size because I needed to crop some out, but I didn't want to crop them down too much. So the photos themselves are 3 3/4 wide, but the height of them is 4 3/4. So that allows me to fit a little bit more in. I might bring this one down. I'm still trying to decide what I'm going to do on this page. I might even trim this down to a 4 by 4, I think. I think this one is just a little bit too high. So where my flip flaps are going, I have cut an additional mat the same size, so that this photo that's going underneath will have a mat directly underneath there. And then I've just got mats for every single one of these. And I'm definitely going to trim this down so that it is a 4 by 4 photo. I think that's going to work really well. I love the depth that brings to my photos. So I think these paper choices are a little bit unexpected because this one here is more a botanical type feel, but it's got lots of gorgeous text on it as well. And this pack here is basically a Christmas pack, but I'm loving how this is looking. So I'm going to trim these pieces down and adhere some of my photos, and then I'm going to come back in with my title and try and decide what elements I'm going to put on here for embellishments. So I've trimmed this original piece that I had down to 6 inches because as soon as I stopped filming, I was thinking I don't have to put a whole sheet of paper behind here and lose these elements. So I'm going to cut these down so that I can put these on each side, and nobody will know that this paper does not sit underneath here as well. And then I get to keep this gorgeous full sheet. So I've got all my elements down when it comes to my photos with the photo mats. So the full mat here is actually measuring 4 inches by 6 inches, and then it reduces down in 1/8 inches to get a 1/16 inch border around all of these, because I really do love just white up against my photos, and then I felt like it needed that extra piece just to ground them a little bit more with the Night of Navy. I've got my flip flaps on here, and I've got a little handle here so that when this is on the outside, because I will cut a slit in my memory protector. This is like a little handle to flip these up, and this indicates that it's an interactive element. So I've cut 2 little circles here, and they are from the Grow with Love dies. This is still available. It's something that I use quite often. It does have like a little seed packet die, but it's got other little elements that are great for tag toppers and things like that as well. So the circle is from that, and I use red line tape on these pieces because it really is very adhesive and very sticky, and a little backing strip that's also very staticky. So when I cut that, I've cut one from this pattern paper here, making sure that I'm going to adhere this down so that the script is reading in the right direction. And then I've got a little backing one here with Night of Navy. So I've got 2 pieces of adhesive on the reverse side of this, just one on this side to adhere it to my flip flap. I'm going to have to bring this over, and then I'm going to, they're so staticky. That's the only thing I don't like about them. But the red line tape is really good for this. I think tear tape might be pretty much as strong. I'm not too sure about that though. So I have just lined that piece up at the back, and I'm making sure that I'm pressing that in really well so that that will adhere. So my flip flaps are on, and I started doing my title, and I was thinking about what other elements I wanted to bring in when it comes to embellishing. And my title is going to be Batuu Magic, because this area is based on Batuu, the outpost from Star Wars. And I was adhering this down. I've cut it with the Alphabet a la mode dies. So these ones here, because they are quite skinny, and you can see I am doing a drop shadow layer. So I started off by adhering the Night of Navy piece to my cardstock here, to the actual page, but then what I did was I started doing it a little bit too far apart. So I am going to adhere these together. I'm going to bring in my little silicone mat here to help me with this, because the glue won't actually stick to this. So I've got those on my tweezers. It might be a little bit hard to see on the silicone mat. Maybe I'll bring in my old close to my heart one. If I'm working with something a little bit lighter in colour, this one works just fine, but it's getting a little bit lost, especially on camera for you. I don't need terribly much glue, but just enough to hold this letter onto here, and then I can position it. Beauty of Belly Art glue is that it does dry clear, and I've got a little bit of wiggle time just to get my letters into place. And then I'm going to be able to adhere these down a lot closer. The spacing is going to be a little bit far apart for this one, but because I used glue, that I cannot pick that up without wrecking that piece of paper. I'm going to do the rest of the letters off camera, but I do want to show you what I'm bringing in for embellishments for this page. I know that I could probably go and find some SVG files with some Star Wars elements, but I sort of love this with all the nighttime feel with this. This was really magical. I absolutely loved it. Stampin' Up! Have these metallic texture rub-ons. There are 8 sheets, so you get 2 of each design for silver and for gold. And I thought with the nighttime scene and all the lights and everything here that I would bring this gold in, because I think that's going to work really, really well. So I'm going to cut apart the ones that I'm going to use. I think I'm going to use this strip here, and it's easier to separate this. I'm actually thinking of using this distressed sort of piece a little bit behind my title. I'm not going to use all of it. I'm just going to use just a small portion of this. So that's why I stopped with my letters. So I am going to just take this off and put this over here, but I'm going to protect my photo with this little strip here. And then I can put this down, and you can usually just do it with your fingers. If you have an embossing tool or an icy pole stick, or I should call an iced lolly, I can't remember what you call them in America, but I do have a fondant tool here. I'm loving how that's looking, but what I'm going to do is actually peel it up this way. I need to rub a little bit more here. It's not liking that I separated this, but it doesn't matter if it is just a little bit. I do have some on my photo. So that's not really what I wanted to do. So I'm going to have to print this photo again. So what I should have done was kept that down or put another piece of cardstock on there. So I don't think I'm going to be able to lift that off my photo. Let me see. So basically these are very, very sticky. And what I'm just doing now is just taking this little bit with my tool here off that area, and I'm going to reprint this photo. You could use these on your photos. They stick quite well, so that's something from that experiment. But I wanted to keep this bit in the actual video. I didn't want to edit this out so that you knew how to possibly fix it. You can run your piercing tool, or there is the pick tool that you could use from Stampin' Up. But I'll be able to print this photo again quite easily and put that on there. I was only trying to get the top little piece here. So I've only got some sketchy little bits of this gold foil left. But what I might do is just use these on other areas. I am going to bring in these sections here because I do want to put this across this area. So now that that bit there didn't work quite well on camera, sometimes things just don't go to plan and you have to adapt and then try and fix it up yourself. So what I'm going to do for this one is have a look at how much I sort of want here. I'm going to trim this away. So it's roughly half. And I've done this on, I think it was on a ferry crossing that I did use this sort of strip, but I used the silver. I do like how it finishes things off. I'm just going to use my finger. I'm not going to bring in this tool. I think when I brought the tool in, I might have gone up over the top of my photo, but now I have brought my tool in, but you will see that this works quite well if you just take care. And because I haven't got any going up over the top of my photo at all, it's not going to do any damage. But look how special that looks. I think it just brings in all the beautiful lantern lights. I'm going to put this one here. They're not all going to match across the page, so you just have to peel away the backing strip. And then I'm going to put this one. Try not to get my head in the way of the camera. But just rubbing it in with your fingers is enough with these rub-ons. And then you just peel it back. Have a little look at what you've got. I think this is perfect for this nighttime photos. I love it. Now, because we've got two strips, I can cut away another strip of this so I can bring this section up into the top area. I was looking at doing some little R2D2s and things like that, but I'm going to leave these just with these pieces here. I think this is going to be enough of an embellishment. So this one I'm going to put so that it comes all the way to the edge there. I'm just going to trim this bit off and push that in with my fingers. I love how that looks. I'm just wondering if I should put another one of these on this side. Coming in here on the white, I'm going to flip. I can't quite get all the way across, so I need roughly this much. That's just going to continue this little piece over to this side. So I'm going to tuck this as much as I can underneath my photo here, because the adhesive from the flip flap doesn't start right up against that edge. It's in a little bit, so I can see that that's going to come out from that photo there. And push that down. Absolutely love these rub-ons, and they're the sort of thing that, you know, you could put and keep away for good. and just they're too precious to use. But I think they need to be brought out and used on your layouts, and I'm loving how this is looking. I do know that I'm going to use this one and possibly these ones here for the double page spread I'm going to do just on the rides that we did in Galaxy's Edge. I absolutely loved this area. So yes, it's an area that we were just going to do daytime photos and nighttime photos, but I have separated out the actual ride photos because I took quite a few and I wanted to just make this part of Star Wars a little bit special for this trip, because as I've said in previous videos, I absolutely love Star Wars and I'm getting ready to just watch the entire thing again, do a bit of binge watching. And I know that I'll be looking at all the details in the movies because I've been to this area now as well. So here are the final pages. You can see I've got my flip flap here with my little handle to hold on to when I put that into my memory protector. I've done my journaling. I just did that on the computer and fed the cardstock through the rear feed of my printer, and I did use white Willow for that, so it prints up quite well. But if you have a rear feed on your printer, it will feed through a lot better than making it go through a normal tray where it might bend a little bit too much. And I love how the rub-ons look for this. Now what I did here while I was adhering this down, I brought this sheet back in that I had messed up. I've reprinted my photo, as you can see, and then there was some little pieces here that I was able to extend the look of this gold foil here off beyond the edge of the sea here. It actually finished here, and then that looked like the sea was just hanging out on its own here. So I have gone through and just put those on. I think I've got a little bit still here. And you just saw me add those extra little bits there. What that's done is extended it a little bit, and I think that looks absolutely great. So even though I messed up with it going on my photo, it was all fixable. Who would have thought with this elegant paper here from Nature's Sweetness and also with the metallic rub-ons that it would translate so well to a Star Wars themed layout. I love how these look. To me, they're just perfect on the page. So that's my layout for this week. What I am loving about doing this collab with Julie is that we are able to relive our holiday together, and we're also getting our layouts done. So we're keeping each other accountable, and I'm making sure I get my journaling done at the same time so that I don't have to come back and do that later. I do that in a lot of projects. I leave my journaling off and then it mounts up to a bigger and bigger task, because sometimes if you do that sort of thing, you don't get back to it and it sits there and it becomes a harder and harder task to do. I think you can see where the inspiration came for this. The actual cuts are a little bit different. I did extend this across the width of my pages rather than keeping it within the bounds of the base page. And I didn't do a little dovetail piece here. Look at your sketchbooks. If you're a little bit stuck with how you want to put pieces behind your photos, I had this layout in these two sort of grid fashions done, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to do my pattern papers. So normally I would do strips like this. But when I saw this one with strips coming down the middle, even though they are totally different from what I've used in the end, I think this looks absolutely fabulous, and it has translated really well from this sketch onto my pages. And the final thing that I forgot to tell you that I put on are these adhesive backed textured dots. Now I didn't have clusters to sort of nestle them in and everything like that, so I've just put two little dots here just to frame out this area so that it's not quite as much of a white gap here, and then just a couple around here just to frame in the title somewhat. So that's it for me for this video. I can't wait to scrapbook more of my Disneyland photos. Please check out our playlist, and I hope you find what we're doing with this inspiration to get your theme park or Disneyland type photos off your phone and onto layouts. I hope to see you next time. Happy crafting everyone, and bye for now.